In this video, we'll be learning all about the Cold War. Oh my goodness, this is going to be incredible. We're going to discover a famous event that happened in the 20th century between the USSR and the USA. And this is going to be an incredible lesson, and we're all going to be learning about the Cold War. So let's begin. The Second World War. At the end of the Second World War in August 1945, the USA and the USSR were allies. This meant they were on the same side, fighting against Nazi Germany and its allies. But even though the two superpowers were allies and had just won the Second World War together, there were differences and tensions between the two that caused the Cold War at the end of 1945. The Allies disagreed on how best to rebuild Germany and other areas of Europe after the war, as well as other issues. Tensions and relationships became more strained as time went on. Each side began to distrust with the other. What do you think makes a country a superpower? The Cold War, 1945 to 1991. A war is a period of fighting between two countries or areas with weapons. Sadly, many people are killed or injured during times of war. The Cold War was a different type of war. It was a time when two superpowers, the USA and the USSR, were in conflict with each other. The two countries never fought against each other in a war during this period, but they were in conflict with each other in different ways from 1945 until 1991. Both countries wanted to have the greatest influence in government and world affairs. So this is the USSR here, and there, and this flag is the USA. Why do you think the war was named the Cold War? Now we're going to learn about the Soviet Union. The USSR was a superpower formed in 1922 and led by the Communist Party. It is also known as the Soviet Union and dominated most of Eastern Europe during the Cold War. Communism is a political idea. This means it is an idea of how to run a country. Communists believed a country's wealth should be shared by everyone in the country. They believed everyone should be equal and receive an equal share. In the USSR, people's lives were controlled closely by the government, and people were not given much freedom or information about life outside of the Soviet Union. There was no alternative to communism. The Soviet Union tried to encourage other countries to become communist. This led them into conflicts with the US government, who were opposed to communism. Now we're going to be learning about the USA. The United States of America is a democracy. This means people in the country vote in a free election for their government. The US government believed capitalism would be best for the citizens in the countries they were helping to redevelop after the Second World War. Capitalism is when individual people strive to do the best they can for themselves, and their families. In a capitalist country, people have different amounts of wealth, depending on their jobs and families. The USA tried to encourage other countries to become capitalist democracies. This led them into conflicts with the USSR, who were opposed to capitalism. The next one is Cold War conflict. The USA and the USSR were in conflict in different ways during the Cold War. These conflicts included spies. Each side in the Cold War used spies to try and learn secrets and information from the other. This was called espionage. It was a very dangerous job, and spies was often caught. Arms race. Both countries had nuclear weapons, but both knew that using these weapons would be catastrophic for the world. Instead, the countries competed with each other to develop their most powerful weapons. This competition was called an arms race. Arms is another word for weapons. The space race, one of the most famous events that happened, the space race. Both countries wanted to be the first to reach outer space and land on the moon. The USSR successfully launched the first man-made object to orbit the Earth, a satellite called Sputnik, on October the 4th, 1957. This inspired the USA to try to be the first country to put a man on the moon. They were successful when Neil Armstrong became the first person to walk on the moon on the 20th of July, 1969. Armstrong here said, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Now we're going to talk about the Berlin Wall. After the war, Germany was divided into West and East Germany, with East Germany becoming a communist state run by the USSR. The capital city, Berlin, was also divided into two. People in West Germany enjoyed more freedom than people in East Germany. Many people wanted to escape East Germany and communism. As a result, several million people moved to West Germany between 1948 and 1960. This worried the East German government. In August of 1961, East Germany began constructing a wall that would keep people from defecting to the West. This was the Berlin Wall. It was almost 27 miles long. The wall was heavily guarded with guns, landmines, and attack dogs. The end of the Cold War. By the late 1980s, both the USA and the USSR were struggling to keep up with the huge coasts of the Cold War. In many Eastern European countries, there were protests and demonstrations against the Soviet Union's control. This led to revolutions in some, where a government is overthrown by force or the will of the people. In November 1989, the Berlin Wall was broken down after protests. On the 25th of December 1991, the leader of the Soviet Union announced the end of the USSR. The Cold War was over. Key vocabulary: allies. Silly me. Sorry guys. Allies: boycott, communism, capitalism, Cold War, conflict, democracy, superpower, USSR, and defecting. Can you remember what those words mean? Here's a timeline of the Cold War. Thank you so much for watching this video on the Cold War. I hope you learned a lot about new things. I hope this topic interested you. And what was your favourite fact? Well, that's the end of this video. So, I shall see you next time. Bye for now.